everyone, welcome to the Australian Reptile Park's live feed. My name's Hayley and today I'm going to be talking to you about a species that's very close to my heart. This is Manny. Say hi to Manny. Say hi. But more importantly, what I'm going to talk to you about is why I have the best job in the whole entire world. Now, everybody loves koalas. How can you not? They're a living, breathing teddy bear. Look at that face. But the reason why I love koalas so much is because they're so unique. I mean, a teddy bear looking creature lives high up in the trees, eats toxic leaves, and they give birth to a tiny little joey that crawls up into mum's pouch, and they only live in Australia. And I think that's my favourite part of it. They live in our backyard and that's it. So koalas are in a lot of trouble in the wild. Their habitat is constantly being destructed, fragmented and degraded. And we all saw the terrible vision of the bushfires in 2019-20 and it obliterated so much of their habitat and their populations. You're smiling at the camera, Manny. So I mentioned before about how koalas give birth to a tiny joey. Now they're marsupials. After breeding, only 35 days later, I know, I love you too. I love you too. See, I told you I have the best job in the world. So they give birth to a tiny joey only 35 days after mating. Stop brushing my hair. And what the joey does is it climbs up into mum's pouch and mum will help the joey as much as it can. And what she'll do is she'll lick a little trail up into her pouch so that the joey knows where to go. The joey is this big. It's a tiny little jelly bean and it's bald, it's blind, and it only has partially formed forearms. It climbs up and it follows mum's trail so it knows where it's going. That's why she licks the trail, but also so the joey doesn't dry out. It's like a little sucked jelly bean, so it dries out in wind and the heat, and they actually give birth in the warmer months. So mum tries its hardest to be able to get that joey and help it on its treacherous journey into that pouch. Once it gets into the pouch, it attaches onto one of the two teats, and that's where it gets its nourishment through mum's milk. So we don't really see the joey. All we see is mum's belly getting bigger and bigger for the next 5 or 6 months. So after that, we'll start to see very little feet and elbows and claws popping out of the pouch. And it's my favourite time of year because I know that joeys are about to come out. Buddy. So when the joey starts popping its head out, we always know that they're about to start papping. And it's really one of my favourite things is you'll be cleaning an enclosure or putting some leaves inside their enclosure, and you'll look up and you'll see mum staring up at you, and then you'll look down just a little bit and you'll see a little mini me face sticking out of mum's pouch looking back, and it doesn't matter how many times I see it, it makes me laugh. So at this point, the koala joey is about to pap, and papping is a developmental milestone for koala joeys. For them to be able to do this, for them to pap means that they can then get those microorganisms that are so important to be able to eat eucalyptus leaves and break those down in their gut. So I guess the only nice way of putting it is if you get a jar of Nutella and you put a 2-year-old in a room with the jar of Nutella, and when you come back in an hour, you can imagine what that child's face looks like. That's what a koala joey's face looks like after it eats pap. There's pap everywhere and they can't get enough of it. So pretty much as soon as that happens, they start to eat eucalyptus leaves. And these tiny little joeys start to gain confidence. They're still drinking mum's milk, but they're coming out and eating leaves, getting bigger. They'll get on mum's belly, still go back in the pouch sometimes, but then they'll get bigger and jump on mum's back. And that's how they jump from tree to tree, having a piggyback ride. So now we get to the point where I tell you about why I've got the best job in the world. So we would all agree, even Manny, that a joey should be with its mum. And here at the Reptile Park, we 100% agree with that. But sometimes things don't go to plan. And unfortunately, Mum might not be, Mum might not be very well, or she might have an underlying health condition, which means that in the wild, she would actually throw that Joey out of the pouch. And it's not because she's evil, but because she's vulnerable when she isn't 100%. So she'll throw that Joey from the pouch so that all that goodness that is going into that Joey from her milk then gets reabsorbed, gives her a bit of a kick, and is able to, she's able to heal quicker or get better sooner, which leaves her less vulnerable. I'm going to talk about your behaviour later. So if that happens here at the reptile park, of course we're not going to let that happen. So we want Mum and Joey to be able to survive and live long, beautiful lives. So while Mum goes and if she's got an underlying health issue, she'll go to the vet, and then I'll take the Joey home. So I become a surrogate koala mum. And I told you I had the best job in the world. So for the first month though, it's a really testing time. You can imagine just how different that life is for the Joey. So as soon as Mum goes to the vet, I'll take the Joey, and I've got to pack my car full of heat boxes, heat mats, formula, sterilisers, bottles, teats, syringes, medications, supplements, and I have to make a koala nursery at home. So I'll do this next to my bed because I'll be able to hear. Are you getting that, Amanda? He's loving his scratches.
He does love his scratches, doesn't he, Hayley?
And I've got to get that koala Joey set up at home so that at night they'll cry all night for the first month, and it's really, really difficult to comfort that Joey. You see, it's come from Mum's pouch, which smells a certain way, feels a certain way, sounds a certain way, and all of a sudden everything's different. So you can imagine how vulnerable that little Joey feels. So I get bags under my eyes because I have to get up every 1 to 2 hours at night. So just when I'm about to curl up and go to sleep, koalas are nocturnal, so Mum would be jumping from tree to tree and she would be very active. So all of a sudden, have a bite on my throat. All of a sudden, the Joey needs a little bit of comfort. Oh, Nanny, do you want to go back to the tree for a second? I'll put him on there. You can see how handsome he is from here. There you go, that's better. So every 1 to 2 hours, I'll be up feeding. Now you want me again. Stop it. So I'm up, and obviously all the new parents out there know that you can't just get up, give the newborn a bottle and that's it. You've got to sterilise everything, make the formula, you've got to toilet the Joey and then comfort it and put it back into its hot box. So I'll set the hot box up with lots of koala toys because they will climb onto Mum. So they need that security blanket. So if the little Joey comes out at night to have a look around, then it will climb onto the koala toys, and that's its comfort. So this box is full of warmth and all the comforts that will help it get through the night. Is that nice? So I'll tell you a little bit about some of the individual koalas that I've hand raised here, just because they're all so different. And I always get asked, who's your favourite? And I really can't say that I do have a favourite. Everyone knows Elsa. She's broke the internet. She was absolutely the cutest little thing. But she was super chilled. From the moment I got her, she just wanted to lie down and munch on her leaves or have some milk, and she was completely fine. And then I had Rosie, who was my koala hat. It didn't matter what I did, how I tried to hold her, she only wanted to sit on my head. So, and she was such a dark little koala with white, bright eyes, just absolutely fell in love with her. But she only wanted to sit perched on my head, which is fine when they're this big. But as they start to grow, it gets quite painful. But I was definitely willing to do it for Rosie. So if I was eating dinner, she'd be on my head. If I was helping the kids with their homework, she'd be on my head. If I was putting the washing out, you guessed it, she'd be sitting on my head. And the neighbours definitely thought I was crazy koala lady because I literally had a koala permanently attached to my head. And then I'll introduce you to young Manning here. Isn't he handsome? So he was my royal pain in the neck from day one, which he's showing everyone out there just how trying he can be at times. But I got Manning when he was tiny. He was only 200 grams. He was only 200 grams and such a tiny little sook. From day one, he just wanted to be held. And it didn't matter what I did, he wanted to be on me. Yeah, wasn't that right? So if his milk wasn't the right temperature, he wouldn't drink it. If his leaves didn't point in the right direction, he wouldn't eat them. If his favourite koala toy was in the wash, then he would sulk and want to be on me. And I couldn't get close to his tree without him kamikaze jumping on top of me, which is all fine if I could see him coming, but when I'm vacuuming with headphones on listening to Taylor Swift, I didn't know he was coming and he just hit me in the back. And it was quite comical, but a little bit of a fright. Wasn't it, buddy? Buddy. So I talked to you about pap a little bit earlier. Obviously, I'm not able or willing to produce pap for koalas. So I still need to produce that pap for the Joey at home. And how I do that is by collecting it from another koala, which has caused many awkward conversations when the visitors are coming past and I'm trying to get pap from a koala, because you know how I described how we get it. But that Joey is also almost gets possessed in the eyes. When it's ready for pap, it'll storm out of its little pouch, and it's only 300 grams at that size. And it will come out and it nuzzles and it's just looking for pap. Once I offer that pap to it, it just starts eating it and it can't get enough. And almost immediately when it first eats its pap, all it does is want to eat leaves. So I know it sounds gross eating mum's poo, but it's such an amazing process, and one that is obviously a massive developmental milestone for joeys. So after they get a little bit bigger, they're too big for the box, they will be promoted to a wash basket on a perch inside my lounge room, so very nice decor, and it sits in there for the next 3 or 4 months. And he or she would have koala toys all around the perch and the wash basket so that it can climb in and out as they please, building up that muscle, learning how to be a koala and eating lots of yummy leaves. So basically my house gets turned into a koala enclosure for about 6 or 7 months. Isn't that right? So at about 10 months old, they start getting the zoomies. So you know how puppies run around like crazy? Koalas do that too, but they do it with their big claws and they jump on you. And what they're trying to say is that I'm ready to be a koala and I'm ready to go back to the reptile park and learn how to climb trees. So everyone always asks me if I get sad at that time, but I really don't. It's a bit of a bittersweet moment, but I actually feel like they're ready for it, so I'm excited for them. So depending on the personality, I'll bring them back and they go into a creche yard with other joeys around about the same age that are having time away from mum. So it really is like the first day of daycare or first day of school for kids. So Elsa, you can imagine, I walked in, she's like, see your mum, jumps off me, goes and hangs out with the other koalas. Rosie went straight to the top of a tree, as you know, she likes being at high places. And this little silky Lala just sat on me and cried and looked at the other koalas like they were aliens. And I think he just wanted to get back into my pajamas and watch reality television with me like he had been for the past 6 months. But so it did take Manning a little bit longer than the girls, but we got there in the end, and it just meant I spent a lot of time on my computer in the enclosure with him, making sure he was okay. So I'm going to stop there because Amanda's like, please Hayley, stop talking about koalas, because I could talk about them all day, every day. And I think you've got some questions for me, do you?
Yeah, we do. A few people have pointed out the little dark spot on Manning's chest. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So Manning is a handsome boy, and the males have a scent gland on their chest. It's actually really smelly. If only you had smelly vision. It's kind of like this eucalyptusy BO smell. It's not great, but the boys actually rub it on the trees. So for territory and to say, I'm a big boy and males stay away from here because these are my trees and my females.
I just saw there's a little koala poking out its head. Can we go and have a little excursion over and have a look over here?
This is Tippy and Tree. Hello. So that's Tree. She's given you the wink there. And little Tippy is about 8 months old there. So if that was my Joey at home, she would be in the little wash basket and she'd be climbing at that size around the little perch and eating leaves at night, and I'd be getting a little bit more sleep than a few hours at a time.
How do they stay? We might go back over here and let them be for a little bit. How do they stay in the trees without falling out?
They've got really, really sharp claws, as you can see here. Look at Manning's claws. So as much as they look like a cute teddy bear, you wouldn't want to be on the other end of those. But they also have like a little plate in their backsides. You're going to come back over? And they just literally sit in a fork. So you see the forks here? They always sit in a fork and wedge themselves in. And even when there's really high winds, you see them just fast asleep, tucked in, and it's just an adaptation that they've got.
Are they endangered?
Koalas are endangered, so there's lots of different listings for koalas, but they really need to be reassessed in the wild. The koalas are devastatingly low numbers, and they haven't been reassessed after the fires in 2019 and 20. And unfortunately, a lot of their habitat and their populations were obliterated.
Do they only eat a eucalyptus, or is there other kinds of trees they eat?
They will eat other flora, so they will eat, grevillea, bottlebrush. Tea tree is a favourite of the little joeys when they're growing up, but they could eat eucalyptus, and that's all, and that wouldn't be a problem for them.
I know you said you didn't have a favourite, but do you really not have a favourite?
I really don't. So, I mean, I bond with each and every one of them, and this is why I said I love my job so much, is they really do see me as mum, and we do lock eyes when they're a tiny little joey and I'm feeding them a bottle. They actually look up at me and I look down at them, and you just fall in love with them. And I just want everyone to love koalas as much as I do, because they're in so much trouble in the wild, and we really need to band together and help them, because they're so unique, like I explained before, and without us, they've got no hope.
I guess that kind of leads on to the last question then. What can people do to help koalas?
So just being aware when you're driving out at night, if you're in koala habitat, keeping your dogs inside, but really just learning about koalas. If you want to learn about how you can help through the reptile park, just go to our website and have a look on there. There's lots of different ways you can help native wildlife, and we'd love to see you in more live streams. So come and see more live streams next week. But for now, I think that's it.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
I think Manning's had enough. He's off and he's about to eat some leaves.
All right, guys, have a good weekend.
Bye.